Any gain is a record gain, and with an hour to go, the market's looking for yet another record finish after a sluggish start. Buyers getting back into the U.S. stock market as the final and most important hour of the trading day begins right now. Welcome to The Closing Bell. I'm Dylan Radigan.
And I'm Becky Quick, in for Maria Bartiromo today. She is on assignment in China. We will have her interview with the chief executive of Hong Kong, Donald Tsang. That's coming up in the next hour of Closing Bell. First, though, let's get to the markets right now. A retreat in oil prices has been fueling today's midday upswing on Wall Street. After being in the red for most of the day, stocks are actually posting gains after crude prices fell in today's session. One of the Dow names on the radar today, ExxonMobil. This is the oil giant posting solid results in the third quarter, with profits topping the $10 billion mark, revenue coming in just short of $100 billion. This was Exxon's second best quarter on record. And September new home sales unexpectedly rose last month by 5.3%, but the builders had to give up a lot to lure in these buyers. Median home prices fell by 9.7% to $217,000 last month. That is the lowest price for a new home in 2 years. And it's the sharpest year-over-year decline in nearly 36 years. Dylan?
Well, Becky, also in the final hour today, the Dow Jones Industrial Average finishing with a record close now 12 of the past 16 sessions. Basically, that means it has gained in 12 of the past 16 sessions. The question is whether the rally continues through the day or fizzles out. It does look promising with an hour to go. We'll tell you what Wall Street's betting on coming up in this hour. Plus, it has been a mostly upbeat earnings season for the big technology names. Microsoft, the big one after the bell today. Will they echo the same optimism as we have seen from Amazon, Apple, Google? You pick it, even IBM, Blockbuster. Can Microsoft live up to that performance? We will preview those numbers and have instant analysis as it comes down. But first, a check of your major averages. You can see that weakness earlier. There was weakness in durable goods and transportation. There's a government data around 10 o'clock this morning that caused that sell-off. But we have fought back, as you can see, robustly through the day and hold on to near our highest levels of the day right now for the Dow, even if it is only a 23-point advance, 12,157 on your Dow Jones Industrial Average. The NASDAQ benefiting from strength across the board in technology. The chip stocks absolutely sensational yesterday as a function of a better than expected forecast from KLA, Tencor across the board. Micron, AMD, Intel, KLA and AMAT, you pick them. They were running. They're helping things along again today. And then the S&P 500. The energy benefit, Becky talked about that. ExxonMobil earnings strong this morning, along with technology helping move things along. Our team covering the markets today at the exchange, over at the NASDAQ, at the NYMEX, along with Bob O'Brien with us at Earnings Central. And, of course, our special guests this afternoon. We begin, however, with our eye on the floor and Bob Pisani. Bob.
And, of course, Dylan, we have got it again happening. Third day in a row, we're getting another nice late-day rally. This would be the third day in a row we closed at the highs. This has been happening now about 8 out of the last 10 trading sessions. We've got great market internals, 2-to-1 advancing to declining stocks. We've got very heavy volume, 1.4 billion shares already. As far as the new highs, they're expanding again. In fact, I'm looking at nearly 250 new highs at the New York Stock Exchange. Is that a little, a lot? It's the best since we've seen in February. And we've had some great numbers in the last 3 or 4 weeks. There is a fundamental underpinning to the rally. That's what everybody keeps coming up to me and saying. This is not a lot of fluff. Look at the earnings picture that we've been seeing. The S&P earnings I've been emphasizing all day, estimated now up 17% for this quarter. That would be the best performance for earnings growth since this third quarter of 2004, the fourth quarter of 2004. A lot of companies out beating estimates today, and very few missing or offering disappointing guidance. Beating estimates, Exxon, Aetna, Dow Chemical, Comcast, OfficeMax. Many of them beat estimates despite higher costs, like Dow Chemical said they raised prices and that offset some of the higher energy and feedstock costs. If you look at some of these stocks here today, you can see historic highs on ExxonMobil. Aetna's having a great day, up about 7%. That's not a historic high. Dow Chemical doing very well. OfficeMax also doing very well here today. That's not far from an historic high as well, up about 2% here. Take a look at the S&P 500, and that's what you want to watch, because we have got one of the great rallies of the last few years, up about 11% now since bottoming in July, and that is a straight line, as close as you're going to get to a straight line. We haven't seen this since 2003 in the second half, and we had another great rally. Finally, one stock that's a little bit of a mystery to me today, and that's MasterCard. MA is the symbol, which in the middle of the day, late in the day here, popped up several dollars on no particular news out there, on very heavy volume. That caught a lot of attention. This may be a little bit of short covering going on in MasterCard. I'll check around on that, see if I can get you some more information. Scott Wapner, in the meantime, is over at the NASDAQ. Scott?
And Bob, thanks so much. All in all, a very strong day here. We're up about 21 points or so, a gain of about 1%. As Bob was mentioning, the 250 so stocks over at the NYSE that hit new highs today. We do have about 100 here, led by who else but Comcast. This is a stock, as I have mentioned on so many occasions, hitting new highs, up 3% again today, up almost 50% since the beginning of the year, beating by 7 cents on the EPS, cable, internet, and the phone combo there, boosting revenues. JetBlue higher as well by 3%, getting approval for those gate slots at Chicago's O'Hare Airport that's going to start in January from New York and L.A. Red Hot is a big loser today. I've talked about it throughout the day, down 26% because Oracle says that it will offer support to Red Hat's Linux software, and it's going to do it at 60% cheaper than what Red Hat is doing, and therefore those shares are really getting hit right now. Business Objects, BOBJ, is the ticker. It is down just about, or I should say it is up about 10%, beating and raising guidance. Says it has no plans to be bought because it has been mentioned in the past by Oracle's Larry Ellison as a possible takeover target. Celgene down here in the bottom is up 11.5%, beating on the EPS and the revenues as well. Revenues up 89% on strong sales of its blood cancer drugs. Sepulchre, another biotech pharma stock in the news today. It is up 7%, also beating strong sales of its two core drugs. Symantec, we find down here at the bottom, is one of the losers today. It is down 6%, missing its consensus by a penny. Revenues also did come in a little bit light, blaming sales in the Middle East, Africa, and Europe. Let's go down to the NYMEX now and to my colleague Sharon Epperson.
Well, Scott, you know, the bulls were saying that we'd seen the bottom here, the surprise decline in oil inventories yesterday. Concrete evidence from many refiners that OPEC members are cutting exports for November and possibly December as well. Cold weather forecast for the next 2 weeks. All signs that energy prices would move higher. Well, that's what they thought. That did not happen today. Crude prices falling below $60.50.
When you think of big oil, ExxonMobil often comes to mind. Bob O'Brien's got the breakdown on the oil giant's latest results. Hey, Bob.
Yeah, Becky, and when you think of big oil, you think of big profits, another $10 billion quarter, the second most profitable quarter in U.S. corporate history. And it puts ExxonMobil on pace to perhaps a $40 billion year. Take a look at some of the underlying trends. Average selling price.
Very much. Again, those results were a lot better than the street was looking for. And here's another thing you should be thinking about, though. If you've been wondering if this large cap rally is sustainable, well, you're not alone. The market is at record highs right now, but so are the short levels. So is the smart money betting on a market fall? CNBC's Bertha Coombs is here with more on that. Hi, Bertha.
Hi, Becky. You know, with daily Dow records, it's not surprising to see more contrarians coming out of the woodwork. Short sellers borrow stock, betting that they'll go down. So where are the shorts placing their bets now? Short interest on big board stocks jumped 1% as of mid-October, according to the latest NYSE data. On the NASDAQ, short interest jumped about 0.5%. But over the last 6 months, NASDAQ short interest has actually declined 5%, while short interest on the big board has risen a whopping 16%. So should we take that as a warning sign? S&P's Mark Arbiter says no. High short interest can sometimes serve as fuel to a rally because the shorts have to buy back borrowed shares when they actually rise.
The last time we saw high levels of put-call ratios, high levels of short interest during a major rally was back in '94, late '94, early '95. During that time, the market just kept going, and that's a good possibility right here.
Now, our Merrill Lynch study says the shorts are most heavily piled into mid and small cap stocks, where shorts are still waiting on the sidelines there for a downside move.
All right, thank you, Bertha. So who is driving this rally of late? Is it the fast money, the hedge fund managers, or is it long-term players? Well, one of our next guests says yes, it is that hot money. The other says long-term, really, this is about the fundamentals of our economy. Joining us today, Jeffrey Saw, Chief Investment Strategist at Raymond James, and Scott Kays, President of Kays Financial Advisory Corp. Jeff, what's the case that you're making for the sort of the short-term nature of the players in this rally right now?
It was typified by Sunday night at 6:30. Somebody came into the futures market and made bids for a huge amount of future contracts and drove the December S&P mini contract from 1375 to 1397 in 2 minutes. I don't know who the buyers are, Dylan, but somebody's out there with an underlying bid below the market.
But why is that necessarily indicative of a problem?
I didn't say it was a problem. In fact, we have actually suggested that the performance anxiety into the fiscal year end for many of the mutual funds next Tuesday was going to put the performance derby at the back of the equity markets and likely drive them higher into that year end or potentially into the elections.
Scott, what's your view right now?
Well, I don't doubt that these kind of things may be affecting short-term action in the market, but I believe it's fundamentals that are driving the market right now. If you go to
a market that sets up bullish once again, as the conversation would suggest. Dow Jones Industrial average good for 17 points, the NASDAQ good for 18. Chip stocks and telecoms very strong today. Comcast also helping with their earnings.
Yeah, we are headed toward that closing bell right now. We've just got about over 45 minutes to go. Clear Channel, meantime, is up 12% year to date, and the stock is getting another big pop today. We're going to find out why just ahead.
And then Microsoft getting ready to report its latest batch of quarterly results, what investors should be expecting from the software giant a little bit later.
I'm Maria Bartiromo coming to you this week from Asia. Hong Kong has been enjoying a big burst of business recently, from $38 billion in global IPOs expected to an increase in the number of multinationals here. Coming up on the closing bell, I'll be speaking with the top guy, the chief executive of Hong Kong.
But first, the most active names right here in New York. Sprint Nextel with a positive view on wireless from the street. The stock up more than $1. Pfizer, Time Warner, AMD, and Exxon out with strong earnings, rounding out your top 5 on a Thursday afternoon.
You're watching Closing Bell on CNBC. First in business worldwide.